What was that?
JWC live stream. Here we are, folks. We've returned again. Maybe a little late today, but better late than never, as they say. Um, this is JWC live stream story autopsy with Ricky and Tom. Special guest author Amber Danson. I'm Ricky. Hello, everyone. Uh, Tom, are you there?
How? Hi.
What's up? Oof. And Amber, are you there?
Hello.
Excellent. So it's been a great week in creativity. The world is it's a hurricane of chaos, but creativity is doing fine. At least at my desk it is. I've been writing this novel, Athenium, throwing down like 7,000 words of that over the last week or so, a little over 7 days. And doing all kinds of fun outline work, and it's really been a blast, man. I'm gonna get back to this other project soon, and we're doing that thing on Tuesdays. Anybody who really wants to get into some cool creative stuff should show up to JWC's Tuesday meeting, our classic meeting. We're trying to decipher the riddle at that meeting, man. We're trying to do this ultimate outline for this next project, and there's so much learning and collaboration. It's really cool. So I've been very satisfied concerning that. So creativity is doing good. How about you, Amber? How's your creativity been lately?
Oh, it's boosted up lately. I've been doing outlining the story arc for my Death's Nightmare series, at least 30 books planned, because
Nice.
this is spanning Jonathan's entire life, more or less. And I got this nifty little thing.
Ooh, look at that!
Makes
Look at
A
that!
list.
Look at that, folks. That's pure process on that card there.
makes sense to me.
No, it's fantastic. However it's gotta go. Let it
That's
go.
me
Whatever.
keeping
I'm
that's me
sorry. Go
keeping
ahead.
track of dates and birth dates.
Yeah, now the characters in order,
Yeah.
as far as almost like a birth tree, and probably also like some kind of chapter plot, like where you're gonna put them, like what chapter. Like I know it's multiple books, and I'm not sure exactly what the structure is because that's a lot. That's a lot of stories. You're saying it's 30 stories, right? Man, look at all that.
Yep. 4 pages. I don't know how well you can see, but each page is like a paragraph or a number of the book.
Mm.
Excellent. Well, if you don't digitize that, perhaps we could take some pictures of it, and next week we could do a screen share because I'd love to see your process with that. I'm big on outlines, and the more processy is the better. So you could like learn. This is how it is for me because I have a few series that I'm working on, a few things that I want to do that way, and I'd like to see how you do it because it'll just be it'll better inform my process so I don't screw up too bad. It looks great. I'd like to see it clearer maybe next time. Thanks.
Yeah, I can take some pictures. I usually write my outlines by hand because then it's something I can look at while I'm typing the story.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I dig it, man. I mean, Tom Tiernan's no stranger to notebook work. And speaking of that, how about you, Tom? How's your creativity been lately?
Been really off the charts. I'm doing. I did a major chapter in Blood on the Sand where the antagonist has destroyed the home of the main characters, and I'm right now in the aftermath of that with the police and the police involved in insurance people, and they think the they tell the police and everything that it was just a gang of teens, drunken teenagers that came by and trashed this place when it's the Luska.
Yeah, well,
Which,
that thing
so
doesn't that thing give off a sopping oil that's like there's a powerful stench? Like, isn't there like ichor all over that place from it flopping around in there doing its death dance?
perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine
You
that place smells like Yankee Candle after that thing was in there. You
so
know what I mean?
it was pretty suspenseful. I started off with the two main characters are sleeping. It's like midnight, and they hear a noise. They say, "Ooh, someone's breaking in," and they peek out in the living room, and there's this something in there just trashing the place. And they said, "We better get out of here," and they take off, and so the guy's entire life work has been destroyed.
Ugh, terrible.
Yeah, so yeah,
That's good. That's
and
that's 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 great. You must handle that well. So, and when you say Blood in the Sand, you're talking about the Florida novel, right?
Florida novel, yeah.
Fantastic, great.
And basically, the two main characters were going to try to see if they could drive it away or catch it or something. But after this, the main characters look at each other and they say, "Yo, we have to kill this sucker."
Yeah, I'll drive it
and
away.
or-
I'll drive it into 5 different ways with dynamite. That's you take a hatchet and you duct tape some dynamite and then
yeah.
and it's done.
So that's really good.
Yeah.
And my Bride of Frankenstein is basically project has become 2 projects. The chronological one from 1797, and then a weird 1950s takeoff one that I'm calling The 5 Brides of Frankenstein.
I know, it's great. It's a great idea, man.
That's top secret right now. What it but,
Oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna say anything. I mean, I want you to read it. When you write it and read it, that'll be when it gets said. Oh, you weren't kidding about creativity. I think we all got a lot of irons in the fire, it seems, which is a wonderful place to be creatively, you know?
Yeah. I was talking to somebody yesterday at my gaming club. He goes, "Do you ever suffer from writer's block?" I said, "No, never." He goes, "Why? What's your secret?" I said, "No secret." I said, "I always have 5 or 6 things going at once. If one of them kind of just gets a little I just put it aside. I'd pick up another one, and instant rejuvenated interest." He said, "Wow." I said,
Some people are impervious to block.
Yeah.
My method is if I get blocked up, which thankfully it rarely happens because it's horrifying. But my thing is listen to a lot of music, like read, like do a lot of reading, like separate yourself from the creative process and reacquire inspiration, and then the muse will start flat. And it's also like, how busy is your life? Like sometimes it's not you that's blocked. Sometimes you're not, your schedule doesn't allow for it because you're just it's a busy sway. I got to do, I have this, I got to go see about my friend, or I got to make sure I take care of this. I got to take the dog to whatever it happens to be. Life is busy. So it's like, sometimes it's that too, you know?
Yeah. That could be a future podcast topipic. Dealing with writer's block. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I have my methods that I could go over, and I'm sure you do too. So we'll save that. I mean, I think we did design a show like that. We'll have to bump it up wherever it is. We'll have to find it and move it up in the.
Sounds good.
We got 1 million of them, folks. 1 million of them. So getting back down to earth here, Amber, do you have anything to read today for today's live stream?
Yes, I do. It's a slightly sad story, but it's got an uplifting ending, so it's not gut punching the audience like the last story did.
I still feel that one. That one was like getting kicked down an elevator shaft. It was incredible. And I mean that like complimentary, like a little bit of a scar on the soul type of unforgettable, which is brilliant. As far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what it should be. but you took it to the next level. So this is another one, folks. Brace for impact. Amber's gonna she's gonna serve us up another one. But it's supposed to have a happier ending. So stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
This one's called Friendship. Jason shuffled out of his apartment, checking to be sure that he had his key before he locked the door. He had an hour before he needed to catch the bus for work, and he wanted to see the geese. He clutched the Ziploc bag of greenery to his chest as he walked. The geese were always happy to see him. They would honk out their glad little cries instead of calling him names. They would take watercress and grapes from his hands with their hard black beaks, and they would let him stroke their feathers. The geese were his only friends. Unhappy thoughts pestered him while he walked. He knew that his odd, shuffling gait made him a target. He was careful not to talk to anyone because his slow speech marked him as different. Even at work, he could hear them whisper retard to each other, and it hurt every time. Almost to the river now. He brightened and craned his neck for that first glimpse of greenery thick with sleek gray bodies. He came at the same time every day, and they were always waiting for him. There they were, just at the edge of the grass beyond a drab brick building. The clattering began when they spotted him. He smiled and shuffled faster. The geese crowded around him, but also made way for him while he walked to his favorite bench. They were excited, first one and then another waggling their feathered butts. Bright eyes turned toward him as he spoke to each of them by name. The bench sat on the strip of grass between the road and the slanted concrete banks of the river. Jason had a good view of the bridge to his left and the water that rippled and glittered as it flowed past. He settled onto one end of the bench so his favorite goose could clamber up beside him. The others ranged out in an arc and muttered among themselves while they waited for their treats. There were goslings among them, fluffy balls of proof that the geese trusted him. He gave the babies more watercress than he gave to the adults, using a scattering of corn to keep the adults busy. Black necks were offered for him to scratch. Webbed feet trampled across his shoes. He stroked sleek backs and tickled downy heads, so enchanted by the birds that he was insensible to his surroundings for many minutes. When he looked up, toward the water on the ugly box-girder bridge, he saw something that commanded his attention more than the geese ever did. There was somebody on the bridge, but not on the narrow sidewalk that ran alongside the road. This person was on the wrong side of the girders, hanging onto the edge, staring at the deep water below. Jason's brow furrowed. Why would anyone want to stand there? They could fall. It was many moments before he realized that the person, he couldn't tell for sure if it was a man or a woman, was thinking about jumping. He lifted the gosling from his lap and stood. He wasn't sure if he should get involved. Suppose it was a prank or a trap of some kind. He had been tricked before by people who were very mean to him. But suppose that person really did want to jump. It would be wrong for him to say nothing. His feet were heavy as he walked toward the bridge. He didn't like people much. Too many of them picked on him. That didn't mean he wanted anyone to die. So he walked along the riverbank and then along the sidewalk until he reached the spot where the person, now easily identified as a man, was standing. "Go away," the man said when Jason stopped nearby. "Why are you up there?" Jason asked, stumbling over his words. He didn't think it was the right thing to say, but it was all he could think of. "Life is meaningless. I'm sick of fighting." The man wobbled as he stared at the river. "There's no hope for me. Go away." "People call me stupid. They think I can't hear them so well because I'm slow. But I want to understand. Why are you so sad?" "I found out my wife is cheating on me. She's pregnant and it's not mine. I've been in Afghanistan for 6 months. I got shrapnel in my leg and she's been sleeping with my brother." "That's terrible." "When I figured it out, she tells me she's sorry." "Sorry? Like that makes everything okay." "At least you know now that she's a bad person. You don't have to keep wasting your time on her." The man wobbled again. His grip on the girder made his knuckles white, but he was looking at the river the way Jason sometimes looked at his bed. You won't hurt her by jumping, Jason said, sure of that much. You'll only hurt yourself. When the young soldier, he must be a soldier with the muscles and the haircut, said nothing, Jason climbed onto the railing and sat. Heights made him dizzy, but he needed to be brave for a man who had been brave for too long. My name is Jason. What's yours? Dylan. He finally looked away from the water, looked into Jason's face. His dark eyes were filled with pain. How could she do this to me? I don't understand mean people, and only a mean person would do that. You go out and fight for everyone to be free. You deserve a better wife than her. Jason drummed his heels against the cold metal. What little he knew how to say seemed so inadequate. Dylan leaned back, looking more thoughtful than grief-shattered. I was away too much, left her alone for too long. Doesn't she have any friends? The thoughtfulness increased. She has family nearby, a few friends. She's not alone out here. I'm alone, Jason said after an awkward silence. My parents are gone. I don't really have any friends, just the geese. Dylan moved slowly, as if in a trance, until he was seated beside Jason. His listening silence was encouragement enough. Nobody wants to be friends with me because I'm slow, but I keep myself busy with the geese and I have a job so I can take care of myself. Not everybody has that. I do still have the army, I guess. Divorce is easy when you can prove infidelity. Dylan glanced at Jason with a little half smile. I'm better off, right? Yeah. Jason smiled with relief. Will you come down? I don't like heights. There was something soft about Dylan's face when he said, Yeah, let's get off this thing. It was Jason's turn to wobble as they climbed off the edge and onto the sidewalk, but Dylan steadied him. Together they walked to where the geese were waiting. Neither man spoke, but the silence between them was a comfortable one. The geese came forward when Jason approached, though many of them puffed out their neck feathers and hissed at Dylan. Jason was warmed by the thought that the geese would try to protect him, but he didn't want them to peck the nice soldier, so he dropped to his knees between Dylan and the geese. His friends clustered around him, some of them still muttering or hissing as they cast baleful glances at Dylan. They allowed him to hold them back, aided by the fact that Dylan stopped walking a few paces away from the birds. They think I'm part of the flock, Jason said proudly. I talked to them and fed them until some of them let me touch. I can pet all of them now. Their feathers are so soft. How long did that take? Jason scrunched his face as he thought. A couple months. They really like watercress. Dylan smiled. Well, they look like you're taking good care of them. Jason ducked his head, pleased. Then he looked up in alarm as the city bus cruised noisily past. My bus! I'm gonna be late for work. I'll give you a ride. Come on, my car's across the bridge. Dylan held out his hand. Jason let Dylan help him up, hope taking root in his heart. He loved the geese, but it wasn't the same as having a human friend. Where do you work? Dylan asked as they walked, side by side, as if Dylan wasn't ashamed to be seen with him. McDonald's, right by the Walmart. Cool, I have some shopping to do anyway. What time are you done? 8:30. My boss makes sure I'm done in time for the last bus. Dylan nodded and got into his car. Jason followed, fumbling with his seatbelt. Dylan told him about basic training, answering all of Jason's questions without a hint of impatience. Before he knew it, they pulled up at the McDonald's. Thanks for the ride, Jason said shyly. Thanks for saving my life. Dylan clasped his hand and said, Don't let anyone make you feel bad about yourself. You stopped to help me when nobody else did. You're a good man and would be the best friend anybody could ever want. Jason blinked back tears, smiled, and slipped out of the car. Dylan's praise buoyed him through his shift so that he could barely hear the pitying whispers of well-meaning idiots. When he left the store, prepared for the 15-minute wait before his bus would arrive, he found his new friend waiting for him. Dylan smiled at him, clearly happy to see him, just like the geese were. That smile made Jason warm inside. Dylan took him out to lunch before work the next day. His face grew stony when he noticed how many people were giving Jason those sneaky, repeated glances. Usually it made him feel unwelcome and conspicuous, but with Dylan beside him, treating him like a regular person, he could forget about the looks. Having a human friend filled a void he hadn't known existed. He saw Dylan frequently and was even introduced to some of Dylan's friends. They all treated him like there was nothing wrong with him. That was when he began to feel like a normal person. He might be a little slow, but he knew now that he was kinder than most people. He was the kind of person who would risk himself for a stranger, and that made him special. That's the story.
I mean, that is just fantastic. It's, I mean, I hardly know where to begin. I feel like it's genius. There's so many access points, and it's just, the voice is so fantastic. Very moving, like very, very moving. For an empath like myself, it plucks every single string that it's supposed to pluck. The isolation, his parents dead, the geese, and then this bridge. And he's in this corporate, the McDonald's next to Walmart. And it's just like corporate cube. No, only the birds are his friends. And then he makes this connection with this guy because he wants to do the right thing. And it proves that he probably has more sense than half of us do. I mean, it's fantastic, Amber. Really, unbelievable, and moving, and in an authentic way, not like grabbing at it, but like successfully conveying it. Tom, comment. I need a comment, Tom.
Oh,
really.
yeah, I agree with everything you say.
Yeah.
I was for some reason really disturbed by the stuff with the birds. Uneasy, not disturbed. That I wasn't sure where that was going. But, could have gone any number of directions with the birds. But I could see where it ended up. It was very, very good. Yeah, I did like that. How all the little pieces kind of crashed together for me at the end, or toward the end. I liked it a lot. Very much.
Yeah, I mean, uplifting in a genuine way, uplifting, because we go through that valley of the shadow of death where he's alone and it's miserable. At least he has the birds, but it's like, oh, this is for the birds. Like, that's all he's got is, and it's like geese can be formidable. Like, that hissing part that's no lie. They can get territorial. And it's like, yeah, me too. We used to have them in profusion at this park where I'm from. I had my sister and I had many childhood experiences concerning geese of that nature. So I understand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One time we took my daughter to the park. She was 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And she was walking around, and my wife and I were sitting on the hill, and my daughter was like about 100 feet away, and all of a sudden there were these geese that went by, and one of them started to walk behind her, do one of these, and my wife said, "Oh, we gotta help." I said, "No, we're gonna watch." And the geese did one of these, and my daughter's like completely oblivious as goose behind her. All of a sudden, wham! And it was just so funny. We literally rolled down the hill laughing because it didn't hurt her; it just goosed her, And she was like so shocked. It was so funny.
Yeah, well, they're adventurous little creatures, and They are for me. They're transposed on childhood, so it's easy for me to just feel like that's what I mean about the relatability. Like you got several points of relatability there, and it's like that. A story like that is structured so well. It begs analysis. Um, so really great. Thank you, Amber, for that read. That was really great. And I can't wait to hear what you're publishing that in. The world should be able to get that. You know, it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Tom, how about you, man? What do you got to read?
I have continuing with Night of the Inferno.
Cool.
We've basically had the thing where the bad guy has killed a queen because he wasn't satisfied with her. So
Oh yeah, that's right. Where
they
he
threw her off the
class.
cliff, and boom.
Oh yeah, that was great.
He says, "Don't worry about the king. He's going to be married real soon to a real young chick," and done. So, and it snaps
Yeah.
back to O'Hara. He's well, anyway. So it says, "I'm not sure where to begin," O'Hara said. "How about starting where you are sitting?" said Miyahab. They were sitting in a modest-sized parlor inside the black stone house. A small fire roared in the fireplace. "Begin with yourself and what has changed from your previous life." The old man's eyes never left O'Hara. They played over him as a cat's eyes would a mouse. O'Hara stood. "Oh, I remember little of it, if at all." He looked around, feeling lost. O'Hara sat comfortably, and within this remarkable homemade jetstone house of jet black stone. The stranger stepped over to the table against the far wall. Here were the remains of a modest meal set on half a dozen plates and dishes. He picked up a small piece of goat cheese and turned to face Shirella and Miyahab. His fingers traced the outline of Hako on his belt. Dalgin said that this Pridara demanded a lot of work by the owner of her shard. Since that's me, I suppose I'll need to know what that means. "Pridara is a collector of knowledge," began Miyahab. "All the statues and paintings I have ever seen of her are her holding a book or a scroll. They may mean whatever you learn will pass on to her by some means we are not to know. Well, she picked a good person to give her shard to. I have lots to learn." "That's an understatement." O'Hara thought for a moment. "I thought this Khalid was a sorcerer." "We are mages, and he was a high-order one." Miyahab paused with his thoughts. "The highest, a 10th order, or grand mage, which is as high a rank as the mages get. He was a scholar of magic and Varema history with few peers. Then I have my work cut out for me. Would you mind if we started now?" He looked at Shirella. It was her house, and he wanted her consent for something that could take a long time. "I don't mind, but I'm not the one who knows the most around here. I'll share what I've learned from years of travel and other things." "Like thieving?" O'Hara asked with a smile. "A little," she admitted. She smiled as she thought back to the times she spent with Lim and all the trouble he got her into. "More than a little," she smiled back. "When did that stop?" said O'Hara. Miyahab turned to look at her, more than a little interested in her answer. "There was a time when there were some bounties on my head. I grew weary of always looking over my shoulder, looking for bounty hunters, and others out for a quick handful of dragloons. I ran for almost a year before I came to Valtour." "We could talk about that more later," said O'Hara. "I'm sure Pridera isn't interested in your past." "That suits me," said Shirella. "My past is behind me, although the skills I've learned have proved quite valuable." "Where would you like to start?" said Miyahab. "How many strangers are there in Varema?" "Oh, there must be close to 500,000 or more," said the mage. "That's many people to unload onto a world. Don't be foolish. They didn't come all at once. The strangers like yourself have dropped into Varema for thousands of years. According to the Caloris tapestry, the gods bring the strangers here." "Whoa, not so fast," he said. "Please go slower, or pause once in a while for me to catch up." Miyahab nodded, taking a drink from his stein. "Forgive an old man, O'Hara. Theological discussions are often the only practical topic for many mages these days." He paused. Shard mages spend much of their lives studying the god shards to understand them. I am fortunate to live in the same village as a shard owner, even if she's a pain in the butt sometimes. Shirley laughed out loud, ignoring the glare of Miyahab. Is it advisable to get that close to the gods? What was that? Said the mage. Are there things someone shouldn't dwell on too deep? Isn't their mysterious nature part of their power? That's an argument worthy of discussion at a grand hall, said the mage with a smile. We are most fortunate, as I have said, to have you among us. Your point of view will prove to be refreshing, if nothing else. You had better be careful, Miyahab, said Shirella. They may kick you out of your own grand hall. Shard mages can be rather rigid in their ways. We can deal with that later, said Miyahab, knowing that each hour that passed saw more of a stranger's past life fade away. It was better for O'Hara this way. Ask your questions. I know you have many. This shard, he said, fingering it. Tell me more about shards. I see you like to tackle the smaller subjects first, said the sorcerer with a smile. Now, where do we begin? It's a very rare occurrence to encounter someone who knows little or nothing about the shards of the gods, or of Varema, for that matter. He stood on creaky legs and moved to the table. Filling a large stein with amber malt, he turned and sat back in the oversized, comfortable chair that Shirella had provided for him. Shards are the property of the gods. How many are there? Shards or gods? Gods, asked the mage. Both. A trick question. There are 15 gods, and 15 shards. There is only one god for each shard. Each shard contains some of the very essence of a particular god or goddess. This was long ago, when the decision was made that the gods had gone beyond even their own boundaries. By who? Who knows, said the mage. By someone more powerful than the gods, said Shirella. Bite your tongue, child, said the old man. Do not utter such things when 2 shards are present. It invites tragedy. Miyahab clutched at an amulet hanging from his neck, gesturing with it as if in prayer. 2 shards? O'Hara asked. He looked with intent at Miyahab and his amulet. Not me, young man. I'm a shard mage without a shard. I'm afraid. Shirella owns Ermal, shard of time and dragons. I see, said O'Hara. That's why you have the swamp in your backyard. Backyard? You say such strange things. He's a stranger, said Miyahab. True, she said. Well, you do have a lot to learn. Miyahab cleared his throat. Okay, listen carefully. A swamp dragon creates its own swamp, the same way a sand dragon creates and shapes the deserts by making sand. Ermal is the gift of Adriel, goddess of the river of time. Sometimes it seems more like a curse than a gift, said Shirella. Hush, child. Yours is one of the primary shards. The gods could take it away from you and give it to someone else. You run that risk each time you speak with disrespect. I don't believe that, and I suspect you don't either, Miyahab, said Shirella. She looked at O'Hara. Shards are the gifts a person retains for their entire lives. The gods have very little influence upon life in Varema. That is one of Adriel's teachings, said the elder mage. She is a rebellious goddess, always at odds with her sisters. She seems to have a lot of followers. Most of them are women, said Shirella. Yes, well, we can pursue that another day. Perhaps you would honor us with a visit to our grand hall. It honors Esh, goddess of all animal life, whose shard is Siri. Like Hako, Siri is a dawn shard, and yours would be most welcome within our walls. It would be my pleasure, said O'Hara. You can never have too many friends. An interesting thought, young man. Isn't it, Shirella? Shirella sat studying both men. She had known Miyahab for over 3 years, almost as long as she had been living in Valtor. He had been one of the deciding votes during the contest to become champion of Valtor. Miyahab had questions about her background and of her vow of loyalty to Valtor if chosen. A dozen other candidates for champion had come to Valtor upon hearing of their need for a champion. Shirella had been passing through Valtor, her destination uncertain. The contest for champion intrigued her, and she sought to enter before the first day's trials. She was quick to prove her superiority over the male contestants. Her natural skills and intelligence shocked the entire tribunal. She won them all over by the end of the trials. Miyahab objected at the time to her being an orphan of possible outlaw lineage and to her vagabond past. She could, at a whim, pack up her things and leave us if a larger city or village offered something better. That was his conclusive argument. Shirella didn't like the accusation. She stated she remained in Valtor until the day the people rejected her. It is true that I have been a wanderer for many years, she began in front of the council, but the truth is that I was not happy during that time. I yearned for a place where I could feel safe, a place to call home. The champion position offers me the chance not only for me to have a home, but I could also contribute to the place I could call home. My loyalties would be here first, among the good people of Valtor. It would be an honor to serve her. Corda, the mayor of Valtor, was of Tariel faith, and chose that moment to be the first on the council to vote in her favor. The mayor, by tradition, voted last. By breaking a tradition, it no doubt clenched her job of champion. That had been enough to sway the other two members of the council to vote for her. Miyahab had been the last one to vote. He had many questions to ask her, but they were not important enough to hold off his votes. Since that time, he had helped her remember some of her past. The mage had given her vital information on the history of Vermal, the moon's blue shard she had owned since birth. I think I'll stop there. Boop, boop, boop. So.
Well, I mean, another fantastic piece of Shirella and Varema. I love your fantasy world, as I love a great many fantasy worlds, and yours does successfully what others, do. You have a system of magic. You have some kind of cosmology concerning the gods and the shards. And now you have this whole concept of portology, which is understood. In other words, O'Hara comes from some other place and they call him a stranger. So there's this thing that manifests, they know strangers. It's in their culture. And those who are inclined with division, I guess, can know which one's a stranger. And it's fantastic because it's like, as it's unfolding, the expo is thorough, but it's like, it's wispy. Like I want to learn more. I'm one of these people that loves world building. I know there's a whole school of thought like that world building is some kind of agony, like a root canal. Anytime you encounter it, I'm all about the world maturing as a character. I don't know what's wrong with that. It's like it's been successfully employed since the beginning of high fantasy. So why not why not use it? And sure. I feel like you did it effective with what you read there. It was really good stuff, you know.
What I enjoyed with the story as I was writing it, it was unfolding in my head, and I could see it the map get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the details filling in, and yeah. And I had two journals. I had my handwritten journal. I was writing the book, and I had a separate one it was called Varema History, and I would just write a little something that popped in my head for like the fourth novel in the series, and I just like volume 4, and I just write that down. So by the time I got to volume 4, I had all these notes. I said, okay, I'm good. But I'm a pantser. I just sat down and I wrote 3,000 pages, like boom, just as it poured into my head. And I know I have to go back and fix it, but I noticed a key thing. I wrote The Prince of the Air, which we read before. I read before about her escorting the prince, and at the end, the guy who ran the school said, I could give a piece of advice: go to Valtor. They are in need of someone like you. So I have to add that back into this, that she came here with a purpose, and found out that they needed a champion, and she said, okay, why not? I'll go for it. She could become a baker or a barkeep. But, she became sheriff.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're knitting this whole big giant series together. Amber, what did you think of that read?
Uh-oh.
I think you're muted. Sorry. I can't hear you. I don't know if you are or aren't, but... Oh.
Something's with sound.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry, Amber. Your voice is not showing up on mic for some reason. She's unmuted. When you get, I don't know if you could figure it out. Maybe she's probably having connection issues. Tom, my whole point is well done with that one. Another successful chapter, or I should say edition, read, whatever it is.
There's just so much. You're just gonna have your mind blown. I really think.
I know. I mean, I looked at these in their earlier draft years and years ago, and I was very, very impressed. I hope you're moving with all haste to get these things into a position where they can be published, you know, because it could really mean a lot for you, man. It's a legit fantasy series. Hi Amber. Let's see. Can we hear you?
I hope so.
Woo,
oh yeah.
Good.
Yay. Okay.
The meeting room.
Yeah. Well, if you could maintain contact, what did you think of Tom's read?
Oh, it was very well done. I always enjoy Tom's reads. He paints a picture of his worlds with his words.
Certainly.
Kind of cinematically. I mean, that's kind of what phrase I use. I mean,
I can see that.
You can picture the world, and it's a good escape from this world.
Which is always welcome, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And when it's authentic, you know, it fits like a glove, and you're just like, oh, I could keep reading this for hours, and that's the success of a completely fantastical world with all those variables of fantasy, and having it be coherent and still a good story. It's like, not bad, sir, not bad.
But I like the idea, the concept of the strangers is that.
Yeah, it's cool.
In the book, I have plucked famous people from our history who have disappeared. I just said, why not drop them to Verema? There's a famous British general. He was outside of Buckingham Palace, and he escorted, I guess, his wife into her side of the carriage, and he walked around the back of the carriage and was never seen again. His name was Bathurst.
What year was that happened?
1848, something like that.
That's like a missing 411 story.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, he's in the middle of London, just poof, gone.
No, I know. I've heard of things like that. He was a military man, so the idea of someone just bopping him on the head like Peter Rabbit and throwing him in a carriage, because that's how it is. You do a smash and grab, like you get a coach, ride the coach next to the other coach. Boom! Throw him. Put a blanket over his head. Throw him in. I mean, it's not impossible that he's in the Thames or whatever, and that's what happened to him.
So I stuck him in Verema.
Yeah, well, that's good. So, I like it better that he's in Verema than in the Thames.
Yeah, but
the Thames has enough.
When we encounter him, you'll be like, wow, yo. So,
yeah, no, it's great, man. I'm looking forward to more of that.
He did not have a good journey to Verema.
No, I doubt it. I don't know that O'Hara's was pleasant either. You know, beyond being disorienting. You know, going through a dimensional portal from one universe, like a rift from one universe to the other. I can't imagine that that's like a happy experience. I don't know. What do you think, Tom? What do you think a wormhole, interdimensional wormhole would feel like?
It'd be like the ultimate nausea. You know?
I can only imagine disorienting in some way. Migraines, psychic pains.
Up, down. Just
vertigo. Yeah, that's right. Well, that was fantastic read, man. So onto our topics. Our topic today for this episode is short stories from first draft to finish work. And so that's just basically a process overview. So I just outlined one of these not even a week ago about this kid who's kind of like a delinquent who thinks that he's a superhero. And it ends very crazy. So what I do is I grab from my prefabricated outline templates. I decide a word budget. If it's going to be, in this case of the story from the other day, it's 4,000 words. So then the 4,000 words are broken up into 1,000-word bulletins, and then I can control the pacing of the whole story. And it's a 4-act structure. Each 1,000 words is an act, right? So I just did that, and I started populating the outline, and I will very likely write it over the period of like 2 days. Normally that's how it is for something like this. But it may be more, maybe a week. And then I draft it and I read it. And then I usually read shorts like that on Tuesday. Like I break it in half. So that would be my process. It's fairly typical, and it represents the contemporary process, like what I'm currently doing now. How about you, Amber? When you write short stories, which your short stories are great. I mean, that last one was like, forget it. Very, very talented and an authentic work. But what's your process for short stories from first draft to finish work, roughly, you know?
Well, what I usually do is have a 1-sentence basic idea for the story, like a pitch line. And then I can show what I develop that into from there, because I've got the whole document with all of my ideas for the one related story collection
Sure.
just sitting on my desktop.
Excellent.
I'll take some of these. Is it sharing? It's not sharing. Come on, share.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem to be cooperating for whatever reason. Ain't technology great, folks?
Yeah. So I wanted to show my document and it just keeps, come on.
How about you, Tom? Short stories from first draft to finished work. What is your process?
We won't talk about origin because there's a lot of different ways I come up with ideas. But what
Yeah,
I'll do is,
I mean, when you decide to write a short story from there, you know.
right.
Yeah.
I generally will just if it grabs me, I'll sit down and write it longhand. You know, straight through, and then I type it up. I don't dictate anymore because it's a mess. So
It's
I do
more
it
it's
long-
it's more
I do
it's
it-
more
so
trouble than it's worth to dictate.
it creates more work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair. So I do my fast 2-finger lightning speed typing and type it all up. Then I listen to it. You know, first I correct it for grammar and spelling and whatever on Grammarly. Then I listen to it, and I stop it when something doesn't sound right. I fix that till it sounds okay, and then I run it through Pro Writer Aid, and then I listen to it again, and that generally is very satisfactory. I'm pretty much done, at least enough to get it read by others. You know.
Fantastic. Yeah, I forgot the PDF reader. I that's part of my process too. Is I convert it to PDF when it's in like a 0 to first draft stage, and then I listen to it because you're right, man. Listening to it is a big deal. That's the point of reading it aloud too.
Yeah.
Like when you read it at a Tuesday meeting, it's good for the process to have it be read aloud.
It sounds like it's on the right track. It'll sound off if it's off.
No, absolutely.
You know? I mean,
yeah, no, I compose to be read aloud anyway, which I feel like that's the best way because all the masters read their stuff aloud. They all had parlor readings.
sure.
And then it's also a question of nowadays with audiobooks. It's like multimedia and stuff means it should be read. It should be written that way anyway, you know? So I agree, man. Your process sounds great.
Yeah, there's a if you aim to only make it sound correctly, it you could take away from the creativity part. I think if you
Mhm.
create it all first, and hopefully it'll sound good because you know
Right on.
um, there's an analogy I'm thinking of is which escapes me right now is but
So that's a great overview of process on all counts. Amber, I guess that screen is being pesky, huh?
I still can't share, but I can explain what it is I do. I'll
Please
start
do.
with
Yeah.
I'll start with the one sentence idea, sort of like a germ of an idea, and
hmm,
then from there I'll write like a one or two paragraph blurb of the story, and that's my little outline ish. I don't really outline the short stories. I kind of wing them.
hmm,
No, I'm
yeah.
hip, and your short stories means that that's a process that's worth looking into because what you do on a regular basis with that medium is like it's like wow. I imagine you've had a lot of practice. Like how many short stories do you think you've written?
I've lost count.
Countless. Tom, just as a bit of a backtrack, and we'll get back to Amber. How about you? How many short stories do you think you've written? You know?
Close to 100, easily. What I also do is I have a where at my office, quote unquote, I have a little spiral journal that when
Mm-hmm.
I come up with a germ, I'll turn to a new page and I'll write that down, and I'll say okay, and I'll put it there, and it's lots of sometimes it's only a sentence like, what if a man woke up in the morning and as he's drinking his coffee, he looks in the backyard and sees a dinosaur eating his wife's prize roses. I wrote that down. I said, yeah, that could be interesting, you know. And so I wrote the dinosaur in the garden, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a flash piece, and um, yeah. So sometimes that's all it takes. But that journal's getting full. I'm gonna have to come up with a second one because there's a lot. It's like 75, 80 ideas there that I haven't touched yet.
Proof's
Um,
in the pudding, folks. You hear all those shorts they wrote. One is countless. The other one's like 100. That's why they sound like that. That's high caliber. Amazing. So Amber, back to your process before we lose too much track there.
Well, once I have the story written, I give it a once over, just to make sure all of the language is what I want it to be. And then I engage reader feedback to see if there's anything unsatisfying about the story and
explain that,
make
please.
adjustments accordingly.
Mm.
Could you explain reader feedback?
Well, I had some feedback on this one story I wrote about a pregnant teenager's kindness to an old blind man. And somebody suggested that it would be more impactful if I changed it from third person to first. So I did. And it worked out a lot better.
So where do you get this feedback from? You have forums you're in
Yeah,
contact with?
Facebook. I have writers groups on Facebook where I get other writers to look at my stuff and I'll look at their stuff. And then
Hmm.
we just give each other feedback so that we can all make our work better.
I would appreciate if you could share those with us, maybe in a list somewhere. You know, which groups you belong to. It'd be very, very nice to get some good feedback.
Very
Well,
valuable. Very valuable.
I
Yeah,
can also give you send you guys each an invitation to most of the groups I'm in, I think.
that's even better.
Sure.
Definitely.
Sure. Thank
Because I
you. That would
joined
be
like every group that had critique in the name.
Oh, that's an idea. Okay.
very, very helpful. Very helpful. So that's fantastic to learn about that process. So we get kind of an average between the three of us. But I'm far less accomplished when it comes to shorts than you guys. I'm just happy to be in the same uh, virtual space here. I have a few shorts that I'm proud of, but most of them are like, oof. I don't have your touch for it. So now we move to the final question. Who are your 3 favorite characters in fiction? And again, that's like it's difficult. It would be better if it was a 5 or a 10 list, because then you could really, feel it out a little bit. But I'm gonna drop my 3. I'm gonna say Mr. Spock. I'm gonna say Galadriel of Lothlorien, specifically Mirror of Galadriel chapter, Galadriel. Although when she's in the court of Melian the Mayor and Silmarillion, she's really cool too. I know where she in that work. I know where she is. And I would have to say, ultimately, Conan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
And if you had those 3 in a party, imagine what they could accomplish together.
Oh yeah.
One with street smarts and brute force, one with infinite like lore and magical wisdom and cosmological harmony, connectedness. And then there's Spock. I mean, if you got Spock on the bridge, you're in a better, it's a better situation for you no matter what you're facing. So
I had a good friend who loved the Conan movies. And I said, "Have you ever read the Conan books?" He said, "No, I didn't even know there were Conan books." So I bought him all the books, the Robert E. Howard books, and I gave it to him for Christmas. And about a month later, he was saying, "Those Conan movies really stink." Because they weren't Conan, just a name, and he kind of looked like Conan. I said, "Yeah, the stories are absolutely incredible."
So my take on that is, I love the Conan movies. It's just hard to recognize the source material in the Schwarzenegger movies. And I love the source. I love the source material. Yeah, well, once in a while, but the delivery and the attitude and everything about him. Like, I love how Schwarzenegger portrays what that is, but it's clear they weren't too interested in the source material when they were. It's a masterpiece though of a film, like for what the budget was, the soundtrack and stuff. And as far as Swords and Sorcery goes on the screen, it's a great thing, but it's difficult to connect it with the source material. Yeah. And I love.
You could have called it Bob the Barbarian.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, the Frost Giant's daughter, right? It's just a masterpiece of a story. Anyway, so those are my 3. And I could do a lot more, but 3. So Amber, what about you? I know this is kind of like an on the spot thing, because it's, how do you summon all of fiction up into 3 nodes? It's like, but it's interesting to try. And that's really the key, that alone. So what do you think? Who are your favorite 3?
Well, I'd have to say my ultimate favorite character besides my own creations would be Deadpool. I really like Deadpool. He's a great big smartass and that's just hilarious.
From the comics or the movies?
I haven't read the comics.
Comics are awesome. Okay, so go ahead.
I'm going to have to check them out because I've heard they're better than the movies and I like the movies.
Everything, yeah, it always is.
Am I
right on? So go ahead. Deadpool.
Yeah. Second would have to be Lucifer from the TV show. I don't know if either of you guys have seen that, but he's a pretty, you feel sorry for the people who have to deal with him, but watching his antics is fun.
Nice. Cool.
So it's entertaining. And then let's see, a third favorite.
I know it's not easy. I struggled with it myself. Hey, Tom, how about you, man? 3 favorite characters.
I have a list I made up a long time ago. I'll have to dig up my 10 favorites, but the top 3.
Yeah. give Amber.
Well, my top 10 favorite characters in fiction, 2 of them are not human. Just to give you, but I'll tell that some other day. My top 2 are very recognizable. It would be Captain Nemo.
Yes, I know. Right? That's for you. That's very true. I know that. I know that about you.
I'd say Sherlock Holmes
Mm-hmm.
is right up there. And the third one, a lot of people, unfortunately, not as many people know about this one, but he's the lead character of my favorite science fiction film trilogy. It's Professor Bernard Quatermass.
Mm.
Bernard Quatermass is a man who works. He's the head of the British rocket group, trying to keep pace with NASA or whatever. And every time he sends up a rocket, when it comes back, something's wrong with it, or he finds something wrong. Basically, he deals with alien menaces to the Earth. The, the first story, he sent up a rocket with 3 men in it. It came back, was sealed, but only one astronaut was on board. The other two, something happened to them. So I won't. That's and
Oh.
so it's just amazing guy. He's very, very, very smart, and he basically, let's put it this way: in the 3 movies, if Quatermass was not in the movies, Earth would have been destroyed 3 times easily because he figures out what's going on. So, you know,
And a very, very handy person to have around, I'm sure.
yeah, he's
Respectable entries, Tom, as always. Amber, your last entry, if you have one. If not, it's okay. It's a very
Dexter Morgan.
Dexter Morgan.
Dexter. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, from
I
the
swear I wrote Jonathan at about the same time that Jeff Lindsay was writing Dexter. He just got his published first. We had the same
Right
idea
on.
at about the same time, but with different quirks, and he just got published first. Because
Yeah.
I
No,
wrote my first draft of Death's Nightmare in 2001.
I believe it. I believe it. I didn't immediately make the comparison when I was reading Death's Nightmare to like one to another. I feel like there's enough difference in vibe, and I haven't read the Dexter source material, so I can't comment on voice. But on the overall
Well,
vibe of the character, I didn't make that correlation right away.
the first 2 Dexter books were really good, and then the third one gets this weird supernatural twist to it, and I lost interest in the series after that.
Wow.
I've heard that before from other people, and some people embrace the supernatural edge. It depends on your taste, but I've heard.
If it had been there from the beginning, it would be different, but it
Yeah.
wasn't, so it seemed kind of contrived.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get it.
I've yeah, I've encountered series like that. Where you're going along, and all of a sudden they introduce a new character, and the next book in the series is about that character. It's like, wait a minute, what happened to the guy I read 40 books about? Nah, we're gonna go with this guy. And I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't do that, folks. I mean, it confuses your audience when you shuffle demographics mid project
Yeah.
without foreshadowing or anything. Where it's just now this is what's going on. It's like I don't know. It all depends on execution. It doesn't sound like it was executed well either. So.
Maybe it's picked up. Who knows? But I wrote a novel in right between Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3. It was a Star Trek novel where the Enterprise is assigned to go to a mysterious section of space between the Klingon and Romulan empires. There's a passageway, and they're sent out there because they've detected the passage from a spaceship that left Earth in the early 22nd century and went through that corridor. And they said, we don't have a record of any kind of spaceship that ever did. So you have to figure out where something that originated from Earth and went that way. And basically they go out there and they travel for a while, and they find this entire solar system that's being terraformed. And it's being run by Captain Nemo. Dun, dun, dun.
And this is a novel you wrote.
Oh yeah, called A Secret No Man Must Know. I'd love to get back to that, and
please, I would love to see that. We're out of time today, folks. We're brimming over with so much creativity that we can't even fit it in an hour anymore. I just want to hear about that Star Trek novel that Tom wrote. But alas, all good things must come to an end. We're at our plug phase. So please go to joeswritersclub.com. Please sign up at joeswriters.club. Check us out on our various social media platforms. Like and subscribe on our YouTube. We got a great writers community. We want you to join it. We have a lot of fun. We got new projects coming up. Come check us out. It's a creative nexus, waiting for anyone who wants to join. I'm selling my book, Babbletron, After the Fire. It's a dystopian cyberpunk book, action-packed. Go check it out on Amazon.com. Richard Andrew Ulkis. You'll dig it, man. Amber, what are you selling today?
Same as every episode, the Death's Nightmare series. October 1st is fast approaching. That's when the sequel goes live.
Very
Okay,
cool.
folks. Amber Danson, Amazon.com. Go pre-order it. Both of those books are great reads.
I'm going to be adding it to Kindle Unlimited so that more people can read it, so that I get more exposure.
Very nice.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, Tom, how about you?
I have my 2 books on Amazon. Dwellers in the Shadows on Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and Is It Still Out There? My second collection this year, also on Kindle, on ebook, paperback, and hardcover. I put new covers on. I did a new introduction and cleaned it up a little bit, and it's looking really nice. The covers are good, finally.
Excellent.
I mean, Kindle's rough to work sometimes.
Oh, yeah, man. I don't have patience for it. I'm terrible.
It's a learning curve.
Yeah, I respect anyone who can figure that out. They have patience that I don't have. All right, folks. We're going to see you next time. Take care. Thanks for listening. We had a ball. We hope you did too. Great reads. See you all later. Thanks a lot, Tom, Amber.
Be seeing you.